family uses Medicaid, you're caring for a kid with special needs, or you or a loved one receives Social Security, the new big beautiful bill could change a lot for you. This bill, officially known as the Healthcare Reform Act of 2023, aims to overhaul the current Medicaid system and introduce new regulations that could significantly impact millions of families, seniors, and people with disabilities across the United States. While the bill promises to streamline certain processes and introduce new benefits, it also comes with substantial cuts and new requirements that could pose challenges for many, including those who rely on Social Security for their income and health care. Here's what every parent, caregiver, and Social Security recipient needs to know. The bill is a mixed bag of potential benefits and significant drawbacks, and understanding its nuances is crucial for navigating the changes ahead. Whether you're a parent, a caregiver, a senior, a person with disabilities, or someone who relies on Medicaid or Social Security for essential health services and income, staying informed is your first step towards adapting to these changes. First, Medicaid is getting a big funding cut, about $1 trillion over the next decade. This reduction in funding is part of a broader effort to reduce federal spending, but it comes at a significant cost to those who depend on Medicaid for their health care needs. The cuts are expected to affect a wide range of services, from routine checkups to specialized treatments, making it more challenging for families, seniors, and people with disabilities to access the care they need. That means nearly 12 million fewer people may have coverage by 2034. This projected decrease in coverage is alarming, as it could leave millions, including seniors and people with disabilities, without access to essential healthcare services. The reduction in coverage is expected to disproportionately affect low-income families, individuals with disabilities, seniors, and those living in rural areas where healthcare options are already limited. Every state will lose some federal Medicaid money, with the hardest hits in Louisiana, Virginia, and states that expanded Medicaid. These states, which have relied heavily on federal funding to support their Medicaid programs, will face significant budget shortfalls. This could lead to cuts in services, longer wait times for appointments, and increased out-of-pocket costs for families, seniors, and people with disabilities. Expect stricter rules, more paperwork, and higher costs, like $35 copays just for doctor visits. The new regulations will require families, seniors, and people with disabilities to navigate a more complex system, with additional documentation and verification processes. These changes are intended to reduce fraud and ensure that only eligible individuals receive benefits, but they also add a layer of bureaucracy that can be difficult to manage. Starting December 2026, most adults on Medicaid will have to work, volunteer, or train for 80 hours a month, unless you're caring for a child under 14, have a disability, or are a senior receiving Social Security retirement or disability benefits. This work requirement is one of the most controversial aspects of the bill. Proponents argue that it encourages self-sufficiency and reduces dependency on government assistance, while critics contend that it places an undue burden on vulnerable populations who may already be struggling to balance work, caregiving, and other responsibilities. But even then, you'll need to prove it. Missing paperwork could mean losing coverage by mistake. The documentation requirements for proving work, volunteer hours, or eligibility for exemptions like disability or senior status are stringent, and any errors or omissions could result in the loss of coverage. This adds an additional layer of stress for families, seniors, and people with disabilities who are already managing complex healthcare needs and financial pressures. Kids with disabilities are supposed to stay covered, but cuts could make it harder to get therapies, home care, or find a doctor who accepts Medicaid. Similarly, seniors and people with disabilities who rely on Social Security and Medicaid may find it more difficult to secure appointments with specialists, obtain necessary medical equipment, or receive in-home care due to funding reductions and increased administrative hurdles. Rural families and seniors might feel this the most if small hospitals close. Rural areas often have fewer healthcare providers and facilities, and the financial strain caused by Medicaid cuts could lead to the closure of small hospitals and clinics. This would force families, seniors, and people with disabilities to travel longer distances for care, increasing both the time and cost associated with accessing medical services. The bill boosts the child tax credit and offers some tax help, but experts say it may not make up for lost care and new costs. For seniors and people on Social Security, including retirees, people with disabilities, SSDI, and survivors, the bill does not directly cut Social Security payments, but rising healthcare costs and reduced Medicaid support could eat into fixed incomes. The increase in the child tax credit is designed to provide financial relief to families, but it may not be sufficient to offset the additional expenses and challenges posed by the Medicaid cuts. Seniors and people with disabilities will need to carefully budget and plan to manage the financial impact of these changes. Bottom line, stay alert, track deadlines, and reach out for help if you need it. Navigating the changes brought by the Big Beautiful Bill will require vigilance and proactive planning. Families, seniors, and all Social Security recipients should stay informed about deadlines, maintain accurate records, and seek assistance from community organizations, healthcare providers, and legal advisors to ensure they continue to receive the care and support they need. If you or a loved one receives Social Security, whether retirement, disability, SSDI, or survivor benefits, be especially mindful of how changes to Medicaid and healthcare costs could affect your monthly budget and access to care.